Just to go back for a moment, did you stay in touch with Lonnie King beyond those early years?
Yes, he graduated and came to Howard Law School, never finished, but lived in the D.C. area. So for a while I remained in Atlanta and he was in Washington, we were out of touch. But since I've moved to Washington about 15 years ago, we've been back in touch.
And did he stay deeply involved in the civil rights
No,
movement?
he didn't. He became disaffected, he said. I was never sure why or if that was a real reason why, but he broke away from it. It's odd, you know, the four guys who started the sit-in movement in 1960 didn't stick with it. They drift, one went in the service, one went here, one and so on.
So I want to get more specifically into these different stages of your leadership career, starting with SNCC. But isn't it interesting that the people you would have thought of as leaders of this movement, who came to you to ask you to participate, didn't continue as leaders, but you did?
Yes. Well, it's true of, you know, if you look at almost all of these towns and cities where the sit-ins break out, 2 or 3 people start it, it becomes a larger group, the larger group does something, victory is achieved, the larger group contracts, and a small cadre goes on. Excuse me, goes on to another level, doing something else, and they connect with others, and the group grows. I'm sorry, if I can remember it. The 4 guys who started the sit-ins in Greensboro dropped out, and others dropped out. And what happens usually is, if you look at these communities where the sit-ins begin, 2 or 3 people start it, the group grows, they sit in, protest, march, whatever, win a victory or win the victory, and then the group dissipates or scatters, and that little cadre goes on. Now, some of the people in the original cadre have dropped off. They've gone back to school, who knows. But 1 or 2 carry on to another level, and some of the people who are in the larger group join the inner cadre. So it's, you know, I'm sure you could draw a chart of this, but that's the way it happens.
What do you think it is about yourself that caused you to stay so intensely involved all these years, even in many different capacities?
I've often wondered about a different aspect of that question. Why on a college campus of 1,000 people at my college did roughly only, say, 200 participate fairly regularly, and of that 200, only about 20 consistently? The group grew, shrunk, shrunk. And why did I carry on in this? And I think those of us who carried on saw early on victory. We won. We integrated the lunch counters in Atlanta. And I don't think we realized how tough the rest of it would be, but we said to ourselves, hey, we won this one, we can win the next one. And it was that early victory that made us see what possibility was. And I don't think we understood how tough it would be, how large the problem really was. But having won once, we knew we could win again. And I knew we could win again. We could do it again. We'd have to change our techniques, change our direction, change this, but we could do it again.
So there was a kind of empowerment for you personally that came out of that.
When you got arrested the very first time, everybody describes it as a feeling of release. Marion Barry describes it as feeling more powerful than he had ever felt in life when he gets arrested. And of course, that's the time when you were powerless. But he and everybody else who talks about it, writes about it, has said, this is the best feeling I've ever had in my life. And it was a wonderful feeling.